Namaskar. I am thankful to Indic Academy for giving me this opportunity to present a paper in this conference. The topic of my paper is Environmentalism in Northeast India, a study on the sacred groves in the tribal cultures of Meghalaya, Mizoram and Arunachal Pradesh. Good afternoon. I am Dr. Srijani Bhattacharjee and I work as a fellow in the Maulana Abul Kalam Azad Institute of Asian Studies, Kolkata. And today I shall be speaking on the culture of sacred groves among the tribal communities of Meghalaya, Mizoram and Arunachal Pradesh. As we know, sacred groves usually refers to forest areas preserved on religious grounds. And sacred groves form an important element of Indian culture as well as cultures across the world. And the basic belief or the basic idea behind sacred grove is that forest spirits reside in those areas, forest gods reside in those areas. Forest spirits may be both benevolent as well as malevolent. So such kind of concepts form the background of sacred groves usually. And in India, we have around 5,000 sacred groves, and that is the highest in Himachal Pradesh, followed by Kerala and Chhattisgarh. Now in Indian states, sacred groves forms an essential element of culture. Like we find sacred groves in Kerala, Karnataka, Rajasthan, Himachal Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Assam, Manipur, Mizoram, Meghalaya, Arunachal Pradesh, among others. And this element of Indian culture prescribes social and cultural norms for human habitation in harmony with nature. Now, my presentation would look on certain areas. Firstly, it would discuss the types of sacred groves present in the regions under study. It would try to understand the importance of these wooded areas in the indigenous tribal cultures of the regions under observation. It would also attempt to comprehend the agents responsible for decline of sacred groves in the recent years, because we find that in these three states under our study, there have been a very noticeable decline of sacred groves and the number of sacred groves in the last 10 years. So we would like to find out the factors that led to the decline of sacred groves in these regions. Now I'd go to sacred groves in Meghalaya. Meghalaya, as we know, Meghalaya is one of the most picturesque state of Northeast India, and the region of Meghalaya, the territory of Meghalaya, has stretches of hills, valleys and plateau. And the region is a repository of various natural, medicinal and mineral resources. And since the region experiences rainfall throughout the year, therefore it has been named as Meghalaya, or the abode of clouds. Now, Meghalaya is predominantly a tribal state, and the dominant tribal population of the region consists of the Khasi, Jaintia and the Garo, and they account for 90% of the total population, and these three are matrilineal communities. These Khasi, Jaintia and Garos are matrilineal communities. Apart from them, we find other tribes as well, like the Dimasa, Hajong, Mar, Lakher, Mikir, Lalung, Baite, Rabha, etc., among others. Now, in my study, I would be looking into the culture of sacred groves among the Khasi, Jaintia and the Garo tribal groups. Now, this is the map of Meghalaya. You can see that it is bordered by Bangladesh on the south and west, and by the Indian state of Assam in the north and east. So it shares international boundaries with Bangladesh, and Meghalaya has a tradition of preserving forest on religious ground, and this is a tradition, very age-old practice among the tribal communities of the region. Now, among the Khasi, Garo and the Jaintia communities of the region, sacred groves are either under individuals or under clan ownership, communities, clan councils, or under local village bodies. The Khasis believe that forest spirits and forest deities stay in these wooded areas, and therefore they preserve a part of their village area for this purpose. And in this wooded area, which is considered sacred by them, village use, commercial utilization and exploitation in any form are not allowed. They worship the guardian spirit of the forest known as Yu Ringkyu and Yu Basa. These are the forest spirits which are considered sacred by the Khasi people, and they think that the reverence of the spirit would bring welfare to the people of their locality. These forests are locally known as Lau Kintang. We find sacred groves in Jaintia Hills as well, and in Jaintia Hills it is indigenously known as Klu Blai. Now, the sacred groves in Khasi Hills region of Meghalaya can be categorized into three classes. Groves under the administration of Lindo. Lindo is a Khasi priest. Therefore, these groves under the ownership of Lindo are known as Law Lindo. Lindo is Khasi priest, and the Khasi priest holds a very high position in the Khasi society, because prior to the coming of the British, the Khasi states were monarchical units, and the highest authority in the Khasi state was the Raja, who was considered to have a divine origin, and just after him was the position of Lindo. So therefore, the Lindo, under Lindo, under the ownership of Lindo, we find that a certain number of groups, sacred groves, exist in Khasi Hills, and these are known as Law Lindo. Then again, groves where traditional religion is followed, it is known as Law Nyam. And the third category consists of groves which are under the village headman. The village headman is the ruler of the village. He is the administrator of the village. And the village headman offer religious rites to forest gods with the help of the Khasi priest and the members of the village darbar to maintain peace and tranquility in the village. So again, I would come to the point like, what is Khasi darbar? Khasi darbar is the village council. This body holds importance in the Khasi society even now, and it was one of the most important political institutions among the Khasis prior to the coming of the British. With the coming of the British and even after pre-independence, we find that though the political importance of Khasi Darbar has been minimized to some extent, but still it is of considerable importance within the village, within the vicinity of the village. So, and therefore, the sacred groves of Meghalaya is considered to be given very high importance by the people. They are the relics of old vegetation in the region, and in Meghalaya we find that the forest types usually consist of tropical evergreen, tropical semi-evergreen, tropical moist and dry deciduous grasslands, and temperate forest. We find subtropical forest also, and we find a large number of pine forest. Now, at present, according to the Forest Administration reports, we find that around 1,000 kilometers of area in the region are under sacred groves. And within this 1,000 kilometers, there are around 111 sacred groves. And out of this 111 sacred groves found in Meghalaya, 8 are in East Garo Hills, 8 are in West Garo Hills, 3 are in Riboi district, 38 are in East Khasi Hills, 19 are in West Khasi Hills, and 35 in Jaintia Hills district. So we find that the largest number of sacred groves are in East Khasi Hills. Now, the Mawphlang forest, sacred forest, is one of the most well-maintained and well-preserved sacred forests found in the region. It is located in East Khasi Hills area, and this is a picture. This is a picture of the Mawphlang sacred forest, and you can see some stones over there. Some of these stones are monoliths. Monoliths actually the Khasi people, they used to put such stones in the memory of their ancestors. So monoliths are present within the Mawphlang sacred forest in East Khasi Hills, and apart from this, there are fire altars also. Some of the flat ones are fire altars. I mean the altars where the religious rites of the indigenous Khasi religion are performed or used to be performed. So this Mawphlang sacred forest is one of the most well preserved sacred forest in the area, and here you can see that there are a number of restrictions on the use of sacred forest. And what were those restrictions? Now I come to the restrictions. Like, it is prohibited to enter the sacred forest without permission. There is prohibition on throwing of garbages within the sacred forest, cutting of trees, plucking of flowers, branches and orchids. These are not allowed in this forest. Then again we find that to enter the grove without the guidance of the local guide is not allowed. Then to hunt in the forest is prohibited. To commit any nuisance within the forest is not permitted. So these are some of the warnings which one should abide by before entering the forest. So this is just a brief idea about the sacred groves which are there in Meghalaya. Now I would go to the sacred groves in Mizoram. As we know, Mizoram is the 23rd state of the Indian Union, and Mizoram is the 23rd state of the Indian Union, and it is a landlocked region located in the northeastern corner of India that shares boundaries with Bangladesh and Myanmar, and it is surrounded by the Indian states of Tripura, Manipur and Assam. Now, Mizoram is also a very beautiful landmass with undulating hills, valleys, rivers and lakes. The dominant population of Mizoram are the Mizo, and this Mizo is a blanket term. It is an umbrella term which includes around 14 sub-tribes. So these 14 sub-tribes in unitedly are called Mizo. Apart from Mizo, we find that there are other marginal communities also, like the Lakhers, Chakma and the Lai, who are not under the blanket term Mizo. Now this is the map of Mizoram. You can see that Mizoram shares international boundaries with Bangladesh, with Myanmar, and it shares its national boundaries with Tripura, Assam and Manipur. Now, Mizoram also has a tradition of preserving forest, and the forest types of the region are mostly of moist tropical type, and botanically the forest of the region can roughly be categorized into tropical west evergreen, mixed deciduous and pine forest. In the higher elevations we find oak forest and chestnut trees as well. So Mizoram also has a tradition of preserving forest on religious ground, and each Mizo village has a sacred forest area known as Gaupui and is silent at Gaupui. These forests are debarred from public entry, where no tree could be felled except those that are decayed. It is believed by the people that forest spirits like Ramhuai, Lasi, Chuangting Leri resides in this forest, and any damage to trees and plants of this forest by external agencies would bring misfortune to the offender. Now, therefore, hence these forests are preserved on religious grounds, because it is believed by the people that these forest spirits reside in these wooded areas. The people also preserve certain portions of forest adjoining villages as part of indigenous tradition, as abodes of supernatural beings, who when offended would wreak vengeance on those who encroached upon them. Now there are certain beliefs among the people about natural elements, certain natural elements. For example, the people do not dug jungle yam and roots indiscriminately, which are usually kept for exigencies. The people do not throw garbage in spring water as it is thought by them to be haunted by evil spirits. Then the people also believe that certain trees, hills and streams are infested with malevolent spirits who are responsible for devastation of all sorts and hence should not be damaged in any way. So such kind of beliefs also act as a ring of preservation towards natural elements in Mizoram. Apart from this, the Mizo people believe in taboo. They believe in certain taboos associated with specific natural elements present in forest. For example, if while clearing forest for cultivation, a skull of a monkey was found, that is cultivation, I am talking about jhum cultivation, because jhum or shifting cultivation is the usual form of cultivation in Mizoram. Because of its topography, because of the elevation of land of the region, we find that the people resort to jhum cultivation. Although there is a valley called Champai Valley where permanent cultivation and terrace cultivation is also performed. But the usual mode of cultivation performed in Mizoram is jhum cultivation. So therefore, when a person clears forest for cultivation and if he finds a skull of a monkey, then he would immediately withdraw from the field for the fear of being prosecuted to death by evil spirits. Apart from this, apart from forests preserved on religious grounds, apart from taboos and beliefs associated with natural elements, we find that the Mizo people, they preserve a part of village as village safety reserves and village supply reserves. Now, village safety reserves and supply reserves both cater to the regular requirements of the villagers. Now, let me say something about village safety reserves because here I would like to mention that prior to the coming of the British, each Mizo village within the territory of Mizoram was divided into a number of chieftainship and each village was a chieftainship and there used to be constant fight and war amongst the villages, between one chief and the other. So therefore the people used to preserve certain forest areas bordering their villages as a measure of protection, and these forest areas are maintained till now. Although chieftainship has been abolished in Arunachal Pradesh in Mizoram in 1952, but still we find the presence of village safety reserves, and now these reserves cater to the regular forest-based necessities of the people. Now, apart from this, we also find that the people preserve bamboo forest, and this is known as Mawphlang. They preserve bamboo forest around their villages to act as a protective ring against villagers, around villages against external attacks and forest fires. So this is a brief idea about the culture of sacred groves in Mizoram. Now I would go to sacred forest in Arunachal Pradesh. Now I would go to the sacred forest in Arunachal Pradesh. As we know, the Indian state of Arunachal Pradesh, also known as the land of rising sun, is situated in the northeastern corner of India, and the region shares its international boundaries with Bhutan, China and Myanmar, and national boundaries with the Indian states of Nagaland and Assam. Now, Arunachal Pradesh has 22 districts at present, and there are around 26 tribal groups with another 110 subgroups. Arunachal Pradesh is a land of valleys, rivers, hills, forest, different flora and fauna, and has all the forest types described in Indian forestry. Now, the types of forestry which you find in Arunachal Pradesh is evergreen forest, the semi-evergreen and subtropical forest. Then in the temperate region of 1500 to 4000 meters, we find blue pine, silver, fir. The extreme limit of the Lohit district is composed of pine marcosi, that is a variety of pine. And above the belt of around 4000 meters, the vegetation gradually merges into subalpine and alpine levels. Apart from this, we find 500 species of medicinal plants in Arunachal Pradesh. Now this is the map of Arunachal Pradesh. As you can see, Bhutan is located over this side, and it is bordered by Bhutan, China and Myanmar, that is international border, and the national borders are shared by Assam and Nagaland. Now, maintenance of forest on religious grounds is a tradition among the tribes of Arunachal Pradesh. They have different mechanisms for biodiversity conservation in the area, and this biodiversity conservation is largely based on religious practices. Since it is a land of many tribes, there are many religions also followed by the tribes. Like we find that the people profess Buddhism, Vaishnavism, Christianity and indigenous religion. The Mongpa, Sherdukpen, Khamti and the Singpho tribes of the region are Buddhist. The Mishings and the Noctes practice Vaishnavism, very elementary form of Vaishnavism. And we find that some of the tribes have converted to Christianity, like the Adis. Some of the Adi population, although smaller portion, but still they have converted into Christianity. And apart from this, we find that the Adis, Nishis, Tagins, Idus, Mijus, these tribes follow their indigenous faiths. So therefore, in Arunachal Pradesh, there are different types of sacred groups preserved by different religious groups. Like for example, in the lower Subansiri district of the territory, we find two types of sacred groves. One is the traditional sacred groves conserved by the tribesmen since ages, while the other is preserved under the influence of Hindu culture. Now you see that the Apatani tribe of the region conserves certain patches of forest areas for reverence to traditional deities where external intrusion is not allowed. Now, the Apatani sacred forest also consists of a water body. It is mandatory to have a water body within the sacred groves according to the Apatani, and this water body is known as Shukhung. And these water bodies act as a source of perennial water supply for the fauna residing in the areas. Now, apart from them, we find the Adi communities of the region. They preserve patches of forest, certain trees and mountains, considering them as the dwelling place of ancestral and subnatural powers. The Adis also consider tiger and toad as their brothers, and therefore they never kill them. Birds like wagtail are also considered as their ancestral brothers, and therefore these living beings are not harmed in any way by the Adis. Similarly, the Mishmis considered the hollow gibbon. They considered the hollow gibbon as a very sacred animal. So they prefer not to cause damage to hollow gibbon in any way. The tribal women do not cut certain plants or eat meat of certain animals during pregnancy. Such taboos act as a protective ring towards some animals and plants. Now, Arunachal is the land of several pilgrim sites for the Hindus. The Malinithan temple of goddess Durga and the Akashiganga temple located in the west and the lower Siang districts, and the natural Shivalinga in the Kardo forest of lower Subansiri district are some of the pilgrim sites visited by the Hindus of Assam, Nepal and Manipur during Makar Sankranti and other occasions. Now, these temples maintain sacred forest areas within their premises where public entry is not allowed. Now, apart from this, there is another pilgrimage of great importance, which is known as Parashuram Kund. Then there is another monastery which is locally known as Gompa, Kyong Theraveda, Gompa. This is also located in Arunachal Pradesh, and this Gompa has an area of 0.5 hectares of forest as sacred forest, and this Gompa is a very holy site for the Hinayana sect of Buddhist. Now, in the recent years, we have found that the tradition of maintaining sacred groves in the areas under study have shown marked decline. Now, what are the factors behind the decline? Number one, most of the people of these regions have converted to other religions, mostly to Christianity from indigenous faith. And after getting converted to Christianity, they do not abide by the norms of indigenous religious faith which they used to do previously. Number one. Secondly, we find that due to shifting cultivation also considerable forest is damaged. Number three, we find large-scale dependence on forest and natural resources for commercial uses among the people. Then there are anthropogenic factors like modern development, urbanization, exploitation of resources, and increase in human population, etc. have also threatened the existence of sacred groves in the areas under observation. Now, apart from this, there are no legislation as such that could protect the sacred groves. In the case of northeastern states, where we find that most of the forest and indigenous forest, there are no laws, there are no legislations that could protect the sacred forest. However, the introduction of protected forest area category community reserve under the Wildlife Protection Amendment Act 2002 provides protection to community forests that also include sacred groves. Now, in the end, we can suggest that since sacred groves are relics of local vegetation, they are the relics of local vegetation and biodiversity, this should certainly be preserved. The environmental importance of sacred groves should be imbibed among the people. The people should be made conscious about the positive influence of sacred groves over the natural environment, because we find that in places like Meghalaya, the sacred groves play a very important role, a crucial role in protecting the region from soil erosion during rain, because Meghalaya is a region which has regular rainfall, and it also acts as a source of perennial water for animals and birds. The medicinal importance of these forest areas also should be understood by the people, because these groves are the repository of indigenous medicinal plants that cannot be found elsewhere. See, I have told that sacred groves are the relics of local vegetation and biodiversity. So the medicinal plants of local characteristics, or the plants which come up in that area, indigenous medicinal plants could be found in sacred groves only. Now, religious beliefs, another suggestions which I can put forward is that religious beliefs and traditional wisdom of the tribes on sacred groves should be integrated with scientific forestry management, so that the groves could be preserved as the useful model for biodiversity conservation. And that's it. Thank you.